Varnių Saint Alexander Sanctuary is the mother of all the churches of Samogitia, the first Catholic church built by the Grand Duke of Lithuania Vytautas during the christening of the people of this land. Sanctified in 1417 by the first bishop of Samogitia, Motiejus. Named after Alexander, such was the Christian name of the Duke Vytautas the Great. In 1464, a cathedral was built in Varnių, and the St. Alexander's Church remained rectory. The building has been renovated, enlarged, and decorated more than once. Soviet government in 1949 turned the church into the warehouse and later to a shop. In 1991, the St. Alexander's Church was restored to the community of believers, with many preserved ancient values rebuilt as before. In the 19th century, in this church, pastors were Kiprijonas Juozapas Nezabetauskis Zabitis, a 1831 rebel, and a writer of the Decades of the Diocese of Samogitia, Vincentas Juzumas. Biržuvėnai, a large manor house, which was preserved its original 17th century structure and the mid-18th century unique wooden buildings of the courtyard. Today, the manor house is formed of 22 buildings and structures of their remains, a park, individual plantations, their groups, a garden, a mill pond, Virvytė River, park ponds, the Gorskiai family cemetery, the First World War German soldier cemetery, and the Cross of the Drowned. There is a mound with the settlement in the territory. In 1995, the manor house was listed in the list of newly explored historical and cultural monuments. In year 2000, registered in the Register of Cultural Property. In year 2005, recognized as a state-protected cultural property. In year 2008, announced as a cultural monument. In 2011, a House of Lords, officine and stables were reconstructed. On the other side of Virvytė River, there is a spring called Laumės Pėda, which was looked after by the Biržuvėnai landlords Gorskiai. In a swamp between Lūkštas and Paršežerys lakes, there is a Sietuva or Burbiškiai Reistrai stone pavement, a stone-based road through the swamp. Sietuvos Kūlgrinda is one section of the road connecting Medvėgalis, Paršpilis and Šiuraičiai, which was built during the period of the Samogitian struggle against the Crusaders and the Livonian Brothers of the Sword. The location of Kūlgrinda was kept secret and therefore very strictly punished for its revealing. There are 3 known Sietuvos Kūlgrinda sections. The first passes through Sietuva, length 250 meters, width 8 meters, in river reaches 20 meters. The other 2 go through nearby swamps. Their lengths are 180 meters and 150 meters. The width is 3 to 4 meters. All 3 segments are located in almost one line, so it is believed that they are traces of a single road. In the historical sources, the wooden Medvėgalis castle is mentioned since 1316, when it was attacked by the Crusaders. Medvėgalis is the name of the 14th century Lithuanian castle, later a hill and adjacent to the highest Samogitian mount, rising 234.6 meters above the sea level. The Medvėgalis archaeological complex consists of the hills of Medvėgalis, Pilies, Piliorių, Ąžuolų, Sumonų, Alkos, and Bevardis hills with a stone pavement. For some time, here lived the famous Margiris of Pilėnai. It is believed that he has ruled Medvėgalis for some time. Called by the name of Medovagle by the ancestors, a Samogitian castle was built on the Medvėgalis hills and was famous for its immense resistance. According to legends, the castle was so strong and so cleverly protected by ramparts that for a long time the Teutonic soldiers of Samogitia could not penetrate it. It is said that even after burning it, the strength of the fortress and its defenders has passed to the hill. In the Pavandenę sacred mountain, also called Sklepkalnis, stood a Sakeliai family columbarium, which in 1903 was sanctified by the bishop Gasparas Felicijonas Cirtautas. The building has reached our time being heavily damaged. When building the columbarium, its architecture was adapted to the ancient Greek Doric order of architecture. Stylistically, the architecture of the structure coincided with the other neo-Renaissance castle mentioned in the Gluda Lake, which remained until the last decade of the 20th century. Viktoras Sakelis was buried in the first columbarium, and later the remains of him and the remains of his Pavandani landlords Danilavičiai grandfathers were reburied. The last bishop of this manor was buried in Sklepkalnis in 1941, who was a martyr of Rainiai, Zigmantas Sakelis. After the World War II, the columbarium was destroyed and the tombs raided. The defiled remains were assembled and buried in the top of the Alkakalnis Peak family graveyard. The Sprude mountain is the giant in the middle of the Samadžišė mountains. To the southwest, it has a close brother, Moteraitis. Further to the south, Girgždutė and Medvėgalis hills can be found, and to north, the Šatrija hill. The mound is devoted as Parako Gadynė to a later period of fights with the Crusaders. The legend tells that the King Mindaugas the Great got into a fight with his brothers. Brother Sprudys came to Samadžišė and erected a castle on the Sprude mountain, as it was the most beautiful and convenient place in all of Samadžišė. The view from the top was magnificent to all sides. The mountain hill had swamps from 3 sides. There only was an entry road from the west, and it was very well seen. The mound where the castle stood was erected 216 meters above the sea level and was round in shape. The mound is surrounded by 3 ramparts of height of up to 4 meters. During the archaeological works, stone axes and spear ends were found. Samadžišė's pride and adornment, Šatrija, which is called a queen. Šatrija, rising 228.7 meters above the sea level, outstands the beauty of all the Samadžišė's mountains. Šatrija is one of the most famous archaeological monuments not only in Samadžišė but also in Lithuania. This is evidenced by archaeological findings, 9th to 12th centuries burn graves, funeral urns, teardrop cups, bowl stones, amber and glass jewelry, and stone axes. According to archaeologists, a wooden castle stood at the top of the hill and people lived from the beginning of the 2nd century before Christ. It is believed that here one of the most important centers of the old Lithuanian faith was destroyed by the introduction of Christianity in Samadžišė. Every year, on the 3rd Saturday of July, followers of the ancient Samadžišėn faith gather on Šatrija to celebrate Gabija's feast. The mountain has many legends of it. It is told that Samadžišėn witches gather on it. Varnių Cathedral, which is currently called the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul, was built in 1691, when in the location of the Seminary Museum, its predecessor and old cathedral burned down. Michal Kazimierz Pats, a bishop of Samadžišė, financed the building and provided a wealthy inventory. The building is of mature Lithuanian Baroque style, a cross-shaped, having an interior of 3 naves, 2 chapels, 12 altars, 2 quadrangular towers and bell tower. After 1817 fire, the architecture was changed. It has acquired the features of classicist rigor on the outside, while inside it has remained authentic. This magnificent church is decorated with the great altar, created in 1694, restored in 2001, the bishop's throne, the miraculous painting of Blessed Virgin Mary, Trakai God's Mother, and an organ, created in 1821, restored in 2011. Underneath the cathedral, there is a crypt of Samadžišėn bishops. In the churchyard, a shrine of 1914 is built. Vembutai Mound is on the left side of the river Geruliukai, as it is named by the locals. The mound's area is of 1.3 hectare. Since year 2000, when looking through the territory, in a 50-hectare land was noticed a mound and well-preserved former fortifications and other object species. A large number of broken rock lines are found in the area that indicate the locations of former barriers. It is believed that here stood the Samagišė Dukes Vykintas castle, which in 13th century Ipatijus chronicle was named as Tviremet. In 1251, when a fight took place between Mindaugas the Great and the rebellious vassals, this Vykinta city stood not only Samagišin but as well as Polovts and Russian Dukes Danila flocks. The mound is dated back to 1st to 13th centuries. The southern foot has a 1st to 2nd century settlement, which was examined in year 2003. The Samagišin Diocese Museum was started in 1999 in a late Baroque building in the late Varnių Samagišin priest seminary mansion built in 1770 by the efforts of Bishop Jan Dominyk Lopaczynski. This museum presents one of the two 15th to 20th centuries dioceses of Lithuania, the Samagišin Medininkų village diocese. Its center for nearly 450 years was Varnių. The Samagišė diocese formed its special history and occupied a special place in the religious, cultural, and political life of Lithuania. The Samagišin Diocese Museum was founded in order to tell of the honorable history and spiritual culture of the seminary and the entire Diocese of Samagišė. The role of the museum is to disseminate and foster cultural values that influence the development of democracy and the strengthening of civil society in Lithuania.